You know the scene, right? You're at a party, everyone seems to be laughing, connecting, it looks like they're even exchanging numbers. And then there's you, kind of standing off to the side, phone in hand, just wondering, why does this seem so easy for everyone else? And you might just tell yourself, well, I guess I'm just not a people person.
But what if that thought, that feeling, isn't the whole story? What if it's not some permanent part of your personality? You see, psychology actually suggests that this struggle is a pattern. And the really hopeful thing about patterns, unlike personality, is that they can absolutely be changed. So most people figure social struggles just come down to being shy or maybe introverted. But the real reasons, they often go much, much deeper than that. It's less about who you are and way more about what your brain learned about connection, often a long, long time ago. Researchers have actually found that people who have a consistently hard time making friends often have a couple of core psychological patterns in common. And here's the surprising part. They have almost nothing to do with being charming or funny or outgoing. Nope, they have everything to do with two really powerful emotions, anxiety and fear.
Okay, so the first pattern is something called attachment anxiety. And this often traces all the way back to childhood. I mean, if you grew up in a home where emotional connection was kind of unpredictable, maybe a parent was warm one minute and then totally distant the next, your brain learned a really tough lesson. It's like trying to navigate a room where the lights just keep flickering on and off. You learn that getting close, well, it can feel dangerous. So now, as an adult, you desperately want that connection, but there's another part of you that's constantly on high alert, just waiting for rejection.
So how does this actually feel, like day to day? Well, it's that feeling of rereading a text message 20 times, just driving yourself crazy trying to figure out the real meaning behind it. It's walking into a room and your brain immediately jumping to the conclusion that nobody wants to talk to you. It's living in this constant state of readiness, just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And it's that weird impulse to pull back the second a friendship starts to get close and feel real. And the second pattern? It's this deep fear of social judgment. Now listen, this is way more than just being shy. This is a core, often unconscious belief that if people really knew you, the authentic, unfiltered you, they just wouldn't like what they see. So what do? You put on a performance. You become this social chameleon, saying all the right things. And then you go home feeling completely drained, replaying every single word, totally convinced you messed it all up. That exhaustion? That isn't a weakness. That's the feeling of your nervous system being in complete overdrive from wearing a mask all night.
So you've got this fear of rejection and this fear of judgment. Now, here's the really fascinating and kind of cruel part of how this all plays out. People who are terrified of rejection don't just experience it more. Sometimes they can unconsciously create it. Not on purpose, of course. It happens through what psychologists call self-protective behaviors.
Just think about it for a second. When you expect to be rejected, what are you going to do? You're going to keep conversations light, surface level, so no one can judge what's really going on inside. You might be the person who cancels plans at the last minute because the thought of being truly vulnerable just feels way too risky. Or you might even come across as cold or uninterested, when the reality is you care so deeply. These are walls, and they're designed to keep you safe.
And this is how we get stuck in this painful cycle called a self-fulfilling prophecy. It starts with that belief, people are going to reject me. So you act in a guarded, distant way to protect yourself. The other person, well, they can feel that distance, and naturally they pull back a little. And then your brain goes, see, I knew it, I was right, people always leave. It's a devastating loop, but just understanding that it exists, that's the first crack in the wall.
Okay, so that's the tough part. The big question is, how do we actually break out of this? And I want to tell you, there is so much hope here. The very fact that you feel this ache for connection means that the fundamental wiring is still there. It just needs a new path to follow.
There's a theory from a psychologist named Roy Baumeister called the need to belong. And he argued that this isn't just a preference or, a nice to have. It is a fundamental biological drive, just as powerful and non-negotiable as our need for food or water. It's absolutely essential to our well-being. And get this, the science backs this up in a pretty shocking way. Research by Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstad found that chronic loneliness has the same negative impact on your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in for a second. 15. This need for connection is not optional for our health. That pain you've been feeling is real, and your need to connect is completely valid. But here's the best part. Our brains, they're plastic. That means the patterns that were wired in when we were kids can absolutely be rewired in adulthood. It doesn't happen just by wanting it, though.
It happens through something called corrective experiences. These are small moments out in the real world that actually prove your old negative story wrong. It could be as simple as sharing one tiny vulnerability and having someone respond with kindness instead of judgment.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, first, you gotta start smaller than you think. Real friendship is built on consistency, like seeing the same person at the same coffee shop every week, not one big vulnerable moment. Second, let yourself be seen, but just one layer at a time. Instead of just saying you're fine, maybe try an answer that's just a little bit deeper. Third, you have to challenge that core belief that you're somehow unlovable. That's the root of all of this. And finally, focus on the quality of your friendships, not the speed or the quantity. Find the people that actually nourish you.
I really want you to hear this. The people who struggle the most to make friends are often the ones who feel things the most deeply. They're the ones who would be the most fiercely loyal, the most incredibly thoughtful, and the most genuinely present friends you could ask for. That deep desire for connection that you have, it's not a flaw. It's a gift the world just hasn't had the chance to unwrap yet.
So if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. You are not broken. You are not bad at people. You are simply someone who learned, very, very wisely, how to protect yourself. And now, slowly, you're just learning that it might be safe to open that door again. And that doesn't just take skill, it takes real courage.